Welcome back again. African American visual writing styles, commonly seen during Black History Month and in African American cultural media, are not a single standardized writing system, but a composite design language shaped by African visual traditions, African American historical experiences, and modern graphic expression. In this context, it functions as both communication and cultural representation. The distinctive appearance of these designs, characterized by variations in letter size, expressive layouts, and bold color usage, reflects historical conditions, aesthetic influences, and intentionally departures from Western conventional writing rather than the use of a formal alphabetic script. Many African societies historically emphasize oral tradition and symbolic visual communication over alphabetic writing systems. Though we have to remember, there were many African ethnicities, kingdoms, and empires that did keep history of who they were through writing systems, paintings, and art, as well as oral traditions as well. Visual traditions across the African continent favored abstraction, symbolism, rhythm, and pattern to convey meaning. Systems such as Adinkra symbolism from present-day country of Ghana, Nsibidi from regions of Nigeria and Cameroon, and Gez script of the Horn of Africa demonstrates the diversity of African approaches to communication. While most African American writing does not directly use these systems as letter forms, it draws from their visual logic, including non-uniformity, symbolic meaning, and expressive structure. African American visual culture developed under conditions of enslavement, segregation, and systematic exclusion from the formal education and publishing institutions. Also want to make this noted, this is just one part of history. Of course, African Americans and have a long lineage of thousands of years of history throughout the world and throughout different civilizations and kingdoms, just like any other group. I want to make that clear. As a result, communication often relied on community-based and informal visual practices. Hand-painted signs, church flyers, protest materials, storefront letters, and later album covers and street art became primary vehicles for visual expression. These environments encouraged improv, individuality, and expressive freedom, which directly influenced African American writing aesthetics. The structural feature of African American Afrocentric include irregular letter sizing, asymmetrical layouts, and a hand-drawn appearance. Letters are often intentionally enlarged or reduced to create emphasis and visual rhythm. Layouts commonly reject rigid alignment in favor of movement and flow. This approach parallels African and African American musical traditions that emphasize rhythm, syncopation, and call and response structures, translating principles into visual form. Color usage in African American typography is culturally intentional rather than decorative. Common color palettes include red, black, green, gold, and yellow, which are derived from Pan-African symbolism, African national flags, and traditional African textiles such as kente cloth from West Africa and Ghana. Western typography traditions historically prioritized uniformity, symmetry, and minimal variations, reflecting industrial printing standards and European design philosophies. African American Afrocentric typography intentionally departs from these conventions, prioritizing expressiveness, visibility, and cultural specificity. This departure functions as both an aesthetic choice and a cultural assertion, emphasizing presence and identity in visual space. There is no single official name for this typography tradition because it is not a formal writing system. In academics and professional contexts, it is most accurately described using terms such as Afrocentric typography, Pan-African graphic design, African-inspired display typography, or Black graphic vernacular. These terms describe a visual language shaped by cultural practice rather than a standardized alphabet or script. In conclusion, this style of writing is a currently grounded visual language shaped by African symbolic traditions, African American historical experiences in America, and expressive modern design practices. So if you ever wonder why on Black History Month or Black shows at a certain time period in America use very, very colorful, different sized letters that were shaped differently, it was because they were African inspired, and it was also due to history of African Americans, especially in Harlem Renaissance and from the 1800s and 1900s, and how African Americans were starting to learn more and more about the world overall. Add me on all social medias as well. Until next time, peace. One love. So catch me if I fall.